Okay, a little case study on what not to do. I'm a bit complacent about taking photos of these things as I deconstruct them because I'm usually relying on my footage. But earlier on, you'll remember I had this leaned against a music stand just because of the sheer size of the thing. And so this door mechanism doesn't appear in my footage. I have taken this off and I tried to film it and then I got confused. I got back on, it's sort of working, but honestly it's a bit lazy. Like, it doesn't quite stay open. Hopefully at some point somebody who has opened up the case but hasn't removed these mechanisms can on Facebook send me a message with a photograph of what these look like and what I've got wrong. I guess because it's such a large door, they've got a spring mechanism on both sides. On this side there's little teeth in there and a rotary spring where one end of it pushed up against the hard surface and the other goes through a hole in the door, and that's more the kind of thing I'm used to seeing in Tascams. But that would be on one side with nothing on the other. But in this, in addition to that, there's this sort of metal pin going to a long spring down here. Tried various combinations of which end of this pin connects to the spring, and there's 3 potential holes that could go through. I've tried several different combinations anyway, and I can't really get it to work as well as it was before I took it off. It's got a little bit of lateral movement to the door that it didn't have before, which I've partly remedied by putting a M3 nylon washer on this side of the spring door, but yeah, I'm not really sure. So sorry, this is an incomplete teardown in that respect. All I would say is don't remove that door unless you have to, because it is awkward to put back on. Moving on, looking over at these shuttle controls, you can see there's a hole through this metal plate where this is attached. Cables here, that's soldered in. You could detach that cable tie if you wished. This red header cable identifier will pull out. And you can see the location 1, 2, 3, 4 screws along here. Screws are all of that type. I'd say this is the most awkward mixer I've ever had to remove from a case of a multi-tracker. You can see why, with so many cables dangling there already, they want to minimise the amount of unpluggable cables there are. But still, you've got things like this little daughter board here with these meters on them attaching by 2 screws. It's then wired to here. Once I lift this out, although the main cable going from left to right between those two, you'll see that in a minute, is detachable. Again, we've got this soldered in earth wire, so really these two need to remain together. There's one detachable one down here that comes out of this socket, but most of the cables running between this little daughter board with these sockets on them to these 2 boards are soldered in. The way it works, you've got to really remove those 2 first before you take this one out, and then you've got to have 1, 2, 3, 4 somewhat attached. It's unwieldy. I'll show you where the screws are, but in a minute as well you can see just how many little button caps and so on that need to slot in exactly the right place, and how many cables there are that can get in the way of those recesses. I'm not looking forward to putting this back together. Right, so I left most of these locations of the screws. I have marked where they were with these Sharpie pen arrows. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. Then this board, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 anyway. Yeah, seemingly just those 5 for this. Then that lifts out. Notice that this black mounting post comes through this hole here. You would first attach this, and you can see that there's 1, 2, 3 screws here. Maybe you can hear from the tone of my voice, sometimes working on these is a real drag, and I'm at one of those wading through treacle moments with the deconstruction of this. And then in order to get in and clean these, imagining they needed to be cleaned, which I think they probably do just by the amount of lint here, then we've got 5 washers that need to be removed so that this plate will come off, and likewise 5 for this plate, and another 3 for this plate. So I mean, I'm sure these plates add a bit of stability to the design, but they're rather time consuming to remove just for the purposes of cleaning. So I'm reassembling this now, having cleaned it, and one of the issues that I've come across is that this plate needs to go the right way around. You can see that there are these additional holes here. I'm tapping there. Those need to go towards the bottom here to correspond to these 2 mounting posts, and also these cutaways need to be at this side One of those is accommodating this mounting post here. I was kind of struggling for that for a while, wondering why it wouldn't go flush to the surface. And finally, underneath the mixer, we have this daughter board that has meters on it. It's attached via two mounting posts here and here. This one on the right, this little common ground connector, pushes up against that metal plate. Again, it's these short, maybe 1 centimeter wide ferrule screws that are screwing into the plastic.